and around the world. US officials will be conducting an assessment of the damage done so far in Libya following the start of the coalition operation dubbed Odyssey Dawn. French fighter jets led the charge on Saturday, firing the first shots against Muammar Gaddafi's regime. US and UK forces followed suit with more than 100 cruise missile hits. The Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi is asking people around the world to stand by his regime. Colonel Gaddafi and his supporters called the coalition strike naked aggression by, quote, barbaric crusaders. American, British and French forces are enforcing a no-fly zone approved by the UN Security Council this past week. US President Barack Obama says the use of force was necessary but not the Allies' first choice. Explosions and anti-aircraft fire thundered in the skies above Tripoli early Sunday. It may have been part of another round of cruise missile attacks by Allied forces, though that is still unclear. Nick Robertson was speaking with CNN's Don Lemon as it happened, and here's part of their conversation just earlier.
It's still going on at the moment, Don. Let me get a little closer. Yeah, you might be able to hear it now.
We can. Let's listen a bit, Nick.
That's the sounds of heavy anti-aircraft gunfire erupting over the city of Tripoli here. We heard it sporadically several hours ago. Now hearing it in a much more sustained fashion.
And Nick, if I can just jump in here for a second, I'm going to let you continue. I want to tell our viewers, Nick Robertson is in Tripoli. He's reporting he's hearing heavy gunfire and what's probably artillery fire. You're also looking at live pictures now from Tripoli. This is from the camera in the location where Nick Robertson is. Nick Robertson, continue, please.
Yeah, hearing these the loud gunfire and explosions here at the city. This gunfire seems to have followed on from several loud explosions, which could have been missile explosions.
Deal for at least some people in Tripoli. CNN's Wolf Blitzer got a first-hand account from one woman there.
I was asleep when suddenly we heard a huge explosion, and I need to remind you I am somewhere near the main military base in Tripoli. It's called Maitiga, and it's the main air base that we have here in Tripoli. I tried to run up to the roof, and then I saw the second explosion. I saw a huge fire coming up from that place, and there was a lot of noise, and I can hear some shooting. I can't determine whether it's an anti-aircraft shooting or gunfire shooting. It was very severe, very heavy. And as I was going downstairs, I heard the third explosion, and what was even much scarier than all this and what's happening is what's happening till now from I heard the explosion is a lot of cars trying to march to central Tripoli, and from time to time we hear them coming out from the windows and they start shooting guns in civilian neighborhoods. So I'm assuming that Gaddafi had been sending people to go to central areas and try to prove that he's still in command. And this is putting terror in all neighborhoods.
A young woman speaking to Wolf Blitzer earlier. Well, on Saturday in Paris, world powers held a high-level meeting about how to enforce the no-fly zone over Libya. The US Secretary of State Hitlary Clinton said Washington is resolute in its efforts to protect civilians.
So let me just underscore the key point. This is a broad international effort. The world will not sit idly by while more innocent civilians are killed. The United States will support our allies and partners as they move to enforce Resolution 1973. We are standing with the people of Libya, and we will not waver in our efforts to protect them.
As you can imagine, Colonel Gaddafi sees things differently. He's vowing to defend Libya and says he will open up weapons depots to his people. Gaddafi also called on other Islamic nations to stand by him. He spoke on Libyan state television soon after the Allied attacks began.
Libya will exercise its right to defend itself according to Section 1 of the United Nations Charter, that all targets, maritime targets, will be exposed to real danger in the Mediterranean, where the Mediterranean and North Africa, because of this aggression, naked aggression, and this irresponsible aggression, it's a war zone.
Libyan officials say the strikes are harming civilians. State television is airing these pictures, which are said to show people injured by the coalition attacks. CNN can't confirm the report. Earlier, Libyan TV also ran what it called an official statement from the Libyan military. It said the attacks had killed 48 people and injured more than 150. The statement claims most of the casualties were women, children and religious clerics, and that the strikes hit public areas, hospitals and schools. Again, we can't independently confirm those numbers. Well, let's look at the countries leading the effort. France's Mirage and Rafale fighter jets are currently enforcing the no-fly zone. The Charles de Gaulle aircraft carrier leaves the Mediterranean port of Toulon Sunday, and a refuelling tanker is on standby. The UK is deploying Typhoon petrol jets, their all-weather tornado attack aircraft, and air-to-air refuelling and surveillance planes. The US won't disclose its operations, but has 5 combat ships in the Mediterranean, including a guided missile destroyer. Canada is sending CF-18 fighter jets. It also has a warship on standby off Libya's coast. Well, let's go now to CNN's Barbara Starr for more on the coalition's damage assessment in Libya.
I think at first light now over Libya, there will begin to be this assessment of the damage caused by the initial strikes. Did they get the Libyan air defenses, the radars, the communications facilities, those surface-to-air missile sites that the Libyans manned that could bring down no-fly zone aircraft? They're going to have to look at all of that and decide how much of it across this coastline of Libya they got, how much of it is destroyed, and when it will be safe for pilots to begin to fly over Libya in this no-fly zone configuration. But, you know, it's really interesting. You've seen both sides rapidly put their cards on the table here. The coalition side going for these very precise unmanned cruise missiles to go after these targets, and look on the other side of your screen, the Libyans with their ground weapons in Tripoli, putting up anti-aircraft fire, tracer fire, which isn't so dangerous, but making a very public show of their force and really making the point that they are in the cities, they are where the civilian populations are, and they're going to make it very tough on the coalition to move into any additional phase of coming after their ground forces.